beautiful Pacific Northwest. How is everyone doing today? I got a message to come on here and do a live card pull for you guys. I know that last week there was a lot of heavy energy um, with 9/11 and other things that were going on. And I just got a message from the ancestors that there's a lot of people right now, this being Sunday, Sunday reset, etc., that really needed to see a splash of color. They needed to see butterfly wings in order to remind them of their own wings. Butterflies are extremely delicate, yet extremely powerful beings. A lot of people say that butterflies are angels that you can see with, the naked eye, so to speak. I love these cards because they do have brilliant colors. I know that we are in the midst of changing seasons right now. Um, Different places, more so than others. It's interesting that, excuse me, the first card that we're pulling is end of an era because a lot of people right now is what it feels like. It's an end of an era. It's the end of fear. I always tell people that fear is false evidence appearing real. Faith is forward action insulating the heart. And a lot of people are being called right now to kind of shift gears. As we're shifting seasons, they're shifting gears from not only settling for our own outdated fear, but settling for other people's outdated fear. And when I see the word era, the first thing that catches my attention is the word raw. And, a lot of people, emotions can leave us feeling raw, as in RAW. But the word Ra is also connected with Egypt and with the god of the sun. Makes me think of the Beatles song, Here Comes the Sun. Little darling, it's been a long and lonely winter. Here comes the sun, doo-doo-doo-doo. Here comes the sun, I say, it's all right. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So even though, last week was very heavy, we're seeing these butterfly energies coming in. Whatever butterfly means to you. To me, butterfly always represents transformation. And butterfly transformation is not easy. The butterfly goes through many different stages. And the thing that I'm hearing right now is butterflies can't see their own wings. They depend on other butterflies seeing their wings and letting them know how strong and beautiful they are. And many of us, coming out of last week, may feel like we were kind of tossed around by a storm, like a butterfly in a storm. And it's easy to kind of doubt, the strength of our wings. Well, I can't see my wings. I don't know how big they are. I don't know how strong they are. Are they tattered? Are they still beautiful? And that's why we trust, other butterflies. There's a saying that it's very difficult to speak caterpillar language with butterflies because the caterpillar is still afraid of that transformation. They're still in fear, false evidence appearing real. Butterflies, on the other hand, have already gone through that transformation. So when we're shifting from the end of an era and we are going into volunteer energy. Okay, so we're volunteering to go through the transformation because we know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Sometimes people think of volunteer experience and, oh, it's not worth it. I don't get paid. How many of us volunteered to come to Earth School, so to speak, and may not have conscious memory of what we signed up for, or feels like we walked through the wrong door, you know? But we did volunteer to come here. And part of the reason that we came here was to go through transformation that not only would give us a broader experience, but would also, support other people in finding their wings and learning how to fly or remembering how to fly. So, even though volunteer experiences, sometimes they don't pay us as much as something else might, think of volunteering in a soup kitchen where you're helping homeless people, or volunteering at a hospital in the NICU and you're taking care of newborn babies, or volunteering at the animal shelter. You're helping other people there. It's just beautiful energy, and when you're volunteering, it may not be that you're getting paid the big bucks or what have you, but life isn't all about money either. And sometimes that volunteer experience connects you with something in the heart that, you weren't even expecting. So going from volunteer energy into self care. You're coming to an end of an era, you're volunteering to take care of yourself more. And that's a beautiful transformation. Look at that blue energy. That blue energy is the throat chakra. So it's being able to speak your piece. It's opening your wings, it's being guided to the right opportunity, the right flower. That blue is, not just communicating, but if you see a blue butterfly, it's going to catch your attention a lot more than, say, a white butterfly, whatever that you're used to seeing around. Um, you've got self care, so it's not only taking care of yourself, but it's doing things for yourself that maybe you weren't doing for a while. It's allowing yourself to speak what you need to, allowing yourself to be heard, seeking out other people that are aligned with the same energy you are, that value the same things you do. That's part of what helps us to open our wings. And when we've been through situations where we don't feel as strong or we don't feel as ready to fly or what have you, and we start connecting with other butterflies that are like, hey, your wings are beautiful, open your wings, it's time to fly. And you're welcome to fly with me. And, don't worry about what caterpillars are saying because they haven't been through that transformation. Even looking at this card here, you've got two hearts on either side. And when you put those two hearts together, it looks like a butterfly. So when the right hearts come together, it's kind of like it connects as a butterfly. It helps to bring in that transformation. And from there, you're going into religion and spirituality. There's another blue butterfly. The pink energy in the background, sometimes people call it blush, is very common when you're talking about weddings, things of that nature. It's a very feminine energy. So it looks like a contrast because you've got this light pink energy and then you've got this, brilliant blue, which could be the combination of divine feminine, divine masculine, and it's also the combination of something that's very soft and something that is perceived as being stronger. In reality, both the flower and the butterfly are just as delicate. But when you look at the card, because of the colors, it may seem like one is more masculine, one is more feminine. Even though we all have masculine, feminine within us. So going into this new week, what I'm getting is that because of how heavy the energies were last week, it's going to be really important, especially tonight, to allow yourself to kind of recalibrate. Whether you're taking a shower, whether you're taking a bath, it doesn't matter, masculine, feminine. If you have a scent that helps you to feel that all is well with the world, or helps you to, surrender to your higher power, kind of a thing, then that's what you want to be working with tonight. If you don't have something like that, you can take a salt bath. It's all about easing into the new week with a new balance of masculine, feminine. And I was watching something the other day, and it was talking about how Sometimes upset is something that can set us up for greater healing or even more blessings. So, a lot of the energies last week to many were very upsetting. And taking a time to be able to pause on Sunday to reflect, on how it can be a set up for this new week, to integrate masculine, feminine, to um, be gentle with yourself, to practice self care, to be gentle with others, to not be afraid to represent both the butterfly and the flower. The flower is releasing the fragrance that attracts the butterfly. The butterfly is sharing the pollen that grows more flowers. Each person has, a task that they're working with this new week coming up. And the card that we're getting next is family changes. So don't be surprised if, the energy within the family changes. Sometimes, with family, when you start talking about religion or politics and all that stuff, it can bring triggers to the surface. It can bring fears. It can bring a lot of things. But if you look at these butterflies, they're orange. You've got pink flowers, which represent the heart. Butterflies are orange, which also represents courage. It represents new home, new understanding, new beginning. These butterflies aren't identical, but they're still respecting each other for the good that they're doing in the world. They're allowing each other to land on whichever flower they need to in the moment. And it's just absolutely beautiful. They're encouraging each other. Hey, I see your wings are spotted. Hey, I see your wings have purple on them. Our wings are different, but they're still just as beautiful, and allow us to fly from flower to flower so that we can, spread new life. We can spread pollen. We can encourage other butterflies. We can encourage the caterpillars that are inching on the ground to go through transformation so they can fly as well. So don't be surprised if this new week, like I said, you find changes within your family, whether they're changes that are brought about by external circumstance or they're talking about changes that are coming from within, coming from the heart. Next, you have seeking and finding. So, there's a saying, seeking you shall find, knock on the door shall be open, asking you will be given the answer. And when you look at this butterfly here, it's lighter colors. You've got, beautiful, almost like a light pink lavender with yellow. You've got these purple flowers in the background, and each butterfly, even though they are different, are still similar. They still have a similar job. One butterfly doesn't say to the other, "Oh, you're too small, you can't make a difference," or "You're too big, you're awkward, people aren't going to feel the same inspiration from you." Because they know that each butterfly, just like each, life on this planet, is a work of art and a work of heart at the same time. We are here to work on our hearts so that we can connect with others in their heart, whether they feel connected to their heart or not. So, you may find yourself seeking something this week, or, and other times, sometimes we lose things to find something else. So, you lose your keys, you go looking for your keys, you find, a letter that you needed to find from your grandfather that inspires you forward in some way, or you find money that you needed just at the right point in time. So what I like to do in the morning is, I wake up with a question in my heart. What am I meant to do today? How am I meant to help? And from there, you let the ancestors kind of fill in the blanks. Or you follow the butterflies, you follow the signs. Sometimes they're little literal butterflies. Sometimes you're going to turn on, YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and you're going to see literal butterflies. Sometimes you walk outside and there's a butterfly that's sitting on a flower in front of you. Either way, it's a message from your ancestors that you're going in the right direction. From there, you have retirement. So, sometimes what you're seeking is going to be at the forefront of where you are. It's going to be right there in front of you. Other times, you may need to just kind of take a step back and let yourself rest and relax and recover. retire. And when you wake up in the morning, you see things with fresh eyes. Some people might miss this butterfly because the orange and the yellow is so close to what's at the center of the flower. Other people would see it stand out for a reason. They would see the pink as being connected to the heart. They would see the butterfly as resting, which is also a key for them to rest too. So then you have take the next step now. So if you've ever read the book called The Power of Now, the strongest energy is always in the moment. If you look at the word moment, you've got the word mom, which is maternal energy. You've got Om, which is a vibrational bridge that brings healing from heaven to earth. If you look at this card, when you think of the word now and you read the word backwards, it's one. So when you're in the now, you've already won. If you can take your day, or your week from moment to moment, you're going to have the energy to do what you need to do. Butterflies don't fly until they're exhausted. They fly until they're guided to land to kind of refuel, drink water, gather pollen, whatever it is, and then they go on to the next flower that calls to them. And the reason that the flower calls to them is because the vibration matches. So, with this week coming up ahead, this is telling you take the next step now. So, say for instance, somebody is wanting to switch to a better job. It would be looking into what the next best job is for them, what it's going to take to get that job, or somebody's wanting to go back to school, researching what that's going to take, wanting to work with a certain group. It's the same thing. Yellow is the color of healing the past. So sometimes it's about healing the past before you can embrace the present and go forward in the future. Other times, yellow also represents friendship, which can also be networking. So sometimes, talking with your friends, hey, I'm thinking about switching jobs, or I'm thinking about going to school, or I'm thinking about connecting with this group or that group. Sometimes you get all the feedback you need. And again, we tend to when you hit that butterfly stage, you tend to surround yourself with other people that are butterflies, and you have to in order to be able to fly. A butterfly can't stay on the ground or they get stepped on. So, sometimes it's seeing things from a higher perspective. And, getting the card that is hobbies, it may be something that you've done for a long time as a hobby. Maybe you like to build model airplanes or cars, or maybe you like to cook, or maybe you like to, babysit, or whatever it is that you do as a hobby, even gaming, in this day and age. And you figure out a way to shift your hobby into something that brings you greater abundance, that allows you to feel more freedom, that allows you to fly higher, that allows you to connect with other butterflies. We're going from one yellow butterfly to the next. And the interesting thing is that the color yellow also represents the eastern direction in the medicine wheel, which can represent family, and the black represents ancestors. So, deferring to your ancestors when you need help, you put your hand on your heart, you feel the drum that connects you to your ancestors, seeking guidance, and that's what comes through. Sometimes people talk about having butterflies or feeling butterflies when they're about to take a big step in their life. They're about to get married, or they're about to ask out the love of their life, or they're about to go into a different job, or whatever it is. They feel butterflies, and it's not because they're not ready, or because they can't handle it, or because they're not being guided in that direction. It's because, it's that change, it's that transformation. And, when you feel that energy, not as something bad, but as something that's confirming you're going in the right direction, that in itself can lift you above and beyond the fear too. And then we have forgiveness. When I see this card, to me, it doesn't feel like forgiving someone else. It feels like going easy on ourselves. It's forgiving yourself for the time that maybe you didn't feel ready for something, and then you beat yourself up. Oh, why did I miss the boat? Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? And what's meant for us never passes us by. So you're not forgiving yourself for not taking the opportunity. You're forgiving yourself for, giving yourself hell afterwards, for looking back and realizing, hey, maybe I wasn't ready. Maybe I did need more experience, or I needed more time, or I needed more to research it more, or whatever it is. And just being gentle with yourself as you take the next step. And if you look at this butterfly, it went from the other ones we saw that were completely yellow to now having turquoise energy, just like the blanket. Turquoise is a master healing color. So when you're working with the stone turquoise or you're working with the color turquoise, you're working with something that not only has the ability to heal you, but also has the ability to heal other people. So if you look at this butterfly, it's a little bit smaller than the other ones we've worked with, but it's even got, um, how do you say, like, how do, highlights of gold, and forgiveness is priceless. Whether you're forgiving yourself or you're forgiving someone else, you always arrive where you need to at the right point in time. And when you're able to trust your wings to carry you where you need to go and trust the wind to get you there in time and on time, there's no longer a need to, beat yourself up. Oh, I should have done this sooner. I should have this. I should have that. Because you're already in the moment. So sometimes forgiveness is exactly that breeze that you need to lift you above and beyond. And, when you look at this situation here, sometimes when you're going in a new direction, it's important to condition your mind and condition your body at the same time. So if you're going from part-time to full-time work, you condition your body to have a little more endurance. If you're getting ready to go to school full-time, it's the same thing. Even getting back into the, dating scene when you haven't done that in a while. It's feeling good about yourself, how you feel inside and outside. You're able to project the most accurate version of who you are to magnetize the person or the situation that's going to match your vibration as well. So the bottom line is you're always supported, just like the butterfly, being guided from flower to flower. And, if you're watching this, your ancestors are telling you that you've already completed your transformation from that caterpillar to the butterfly. And, it doesn't mean that the butterfly is better than the caterpillar. It just means that the butterfly had the courage to go through that transformation. So it's not about judging the caterpillar. Oh, I can't believe this person's still a caterpillar, this, that, and the other. Caterpillar is learning things that it needs to as well. And the caterpillar is the one that is, leaving the key for the next generation. Once the butterfly goes into the chrysalis and emerges with the wings, they're able to see things from a bigger perspective and, basically inspire everyone along the way. So if you look at these colors here, the healing of the past, which is the yellow, has now brought you in, has now, excuse me, offered you an even stronger foundation for which to, speak from your throat, to, be heard in the right way, to carry you forward in the best way while continuing to inspire others. So you can feel my throat chakra drinking too much coffee today. I was just guided, to come on here and do a little reading. And I will post this on Facebook and Instagram or whatever. And if anybody is inspired by the reading and you want me to do a personal reading for you, just know that all of the proceeds that come from donations, whether it's Cash App or PayPal, are going towards a facility that is helping fostering kids and veterans as well. So if you care about foster kids, you care about veterans, we'll be incorporating equine therapy and things of that nature. Whatever support you can offer is greatly appreciated. So my prayers are with you, and I'll look forward to um, seeing you guys again, hopefully next weekend, do another reading. And, just like I said, yes, last week was a lot going on, and give yourself some grace. Don't be afraid to rest until your wings feel strong enough for your journey. Trust your journey, trust the winds, and keep going forward in the right direction. Have a great week, you guys. Reach out if you need me. Namaste.